Well, Kentucky's optometry board is trying to rein in a scandal of its own making after years of issuing waivers for optometry grads who couldn't pass the national exams. The board reversed course earlier this year.
But at a public hearing on the new rules, the National Testing Group says the reforms will carve out loopholes. Wave News troubleshooter Mark Stevens says as a result, other states have begun siloing Kentucky optometrists.
Yeah, we learned both Nevada and New Hampshire say they will not accept the testing exceptions Kentucky has proposed and won't recognize Kentucky optometry licenses as equivalent to their own. At least 21 Kentucky optometrists have been under scrutiny, but at today's public hearing, the state gave the public under 15 minutes to make their case. In the conference room of a Holiday Inn Express, two members of the public voiced their opposition to Kentucky's proposed reforms. Both are from the National Board of Examiners in Optometry. Both expressed their concerns.
The KBOE has not taken the straightforward and obvious path to ensure public safety.
The Kentucky Optometry Board has lost its way, putting patient safety at risk and placing a lower priority on public health than on upholding competency standards.
Kentucky reversed itself after a series of troubleshooter stories about optometrists who were granted licenses with waivers. Some didn't pass a single part of their national exams. In February, the state said optometrists with these waivers would have to stop performing laser procedures and was dropping a Canadian substitute test. But it did not prohibit these doctors from practicing and proposed other alternative tests. It made Kentucky an island. Daniel Taylor serves on the National Testing Group's board. He says these tests have been standardized across the country for a simple reason.
It would mean that if you were to see an optometrist in Kentucky and then go across the border and see an optometrist in another state or move to another state and have to see an optometrist there, you would have to check with the local standards to see what those levels of quality were.
No one else spoke. The Optometry Board did not respond, saying it will file its response as part of the process, taking this feedback into consideration. An NBEO letter to the state first revealed they had questioned how 21 optometrists had gotten their licenses based on their lack of testing records. The state board fully denied our records request for another letter that NBEO sent to the board in the fall. The Attorney General's office is currently reviewing our appeal. Mark Stevens, Wave News.